What was the most shocking thing you heard the quiet kid say? There was a girl in my class reminiscing on her childhood, telling how she went back to an old amusement park she used to go to constantly. She was saying how she went back there a few months before telling the story and said she wanted to kill everyone there, and the look in her eyes said she wasn't kidding either. We were standing around being high school virgins and talking about sexual tricks positions like the Abraham Lincoln and the White Dragon. This kid comes up and says, "This one's called the Gravidigger. You bang a girl from behind, then kill her with a shovel." We laughed nervously. As someone that used to be a quiet kid and am now a reasonably quiet adult, I find this thread to be interesting. Part of the reason I used to be so quiet is because it seemed like every time I would open my mouth I would end up regretting it. The words would either come out completely jumbled or even unintelligible. The sentences would be plagued with stutters, or I would say some spur of the moment thing that I didn't realize would be stupid or creepy until immediately after I said it. I swear I have some kind of communication deficit because I've always had trouble articulating my words. I've been aware of it for as long as I can remember, and it can really put a damper on a person's confidence to speak up. Too long didn't read. If you know a shy kid that rarely talks or even comes off as creepy, he may actually be perfectly normal inside of his head, but struggling with expressing himself verbally. Please be kind enough to overlook it and encourage them to talk by asking their opinions, making an effort to include them. I stay quiet because people pay more attention to the words of those who rarely speak than those who are always speaking. This was when I was in my first semester of college 2 years ago. There was this girl who never said a word. The teacher would ask her questions. She would just not say a word. I can honestly never remember her even making a noise. One day the teacher got upset. He felt like she was ignoring him and that she was being disrespectful, so he, like an asshole, said, "Did no one teach you how to speak?" She stood up, walked up to the whiteboard, grabbed his marker, and wrote, "I'm mute. You foolish ducker." Apparently no one ever told the teacher that she had a disability, but she was one badass motherfucker for taking his marker out of his hand and writing that LOL. In the middle of class, if I was your mother, I'd wipe your face against the sidewalk. "You can't catch me, you little wiener." I could not stop laughing. I was the quiet kid. There was this kid in high school who was trying to bully me at lunch, and for context he was a 21-year-old junior. He kept getting left back every year for reasons unknown. Him, "Why don't you get out of our country?" Me, "Why don't you get out of high school?" He couldn't think of any response, turned red, and the kids around the table started dying with laughter. I won that day. That quiet kid was me. My boss had brought cheesecake cupcakes. This was my first time having such a delicious treat, and let me tell you what, those cupcakes were best damn cupcake I have eaten to this very day. So out of nowhere, and without thinking, I say, "Hey Amy, these cupcakes are better than sex." From this day forward, her cupcakes were known as sex cupcakes. When I was in football in high school, the varsity team, all the juniors and seniors, went to a boot camp, wherein we all camped out on the property of a cabin owned by one of the coaches. We got divided into teams, and there was a running competition for the duration of the camp. We would have various events or activities where we would compete for points. Most of them were things where we would have physical competition, such as races or tug of war, etc. One day, the coaches decided to do something a little different, and we all were tasked with having our teams perform some kind of skit with the coaches as judges. My team really had no idea what to do, but someone came up with the idea of having a guy, let's call him Mike, give a speech. Mike was one of the most soft-spoken guys I had ever met. I had played football with the guy for years, and he averaged about a sentence per week. We figured this would be brilliant, because no one would see this coming. When we suggested it, he just grinned and said, "Okay, let's do it." So, we went up to the stage, and the rest of the team and me introduced Mike as a real stand-up guy, who was just awesome. and Mike came on stage and proceeded to rip on us as lousy teammates who were incompetent and annoying. Everyone was so shocked at this that they laughed until they cried, and we ended up winning first in that event. Too long didn't read convinced the quiet guy to do 3 minutes of stand-up comedy. No one saw it coming. In basic at Footley and Wood, Missouri, or as we preferred to call it, Lost in the Woods, Missouri, we had this stone cold private named Perkins. Perkins would never sound off. That's sort of a big thing in basic. The drill sergeants want you to yell about everything. Yes. No. I don't know. I don't know. Why I don't know. I'm sorry I don't know. I have no excuse for not knowing. Any other thing they generally wanted to hear you shout loudly. The counting of numbers. You get the idea. Perkins never sounded off for any of it. This got him in trouble. All the time. Every single day. They'd scream at him for not screaming. He'd sort of answer them in a moderate tone. Then they'd smoke him until he was ragged. This went on and on for weeks until, well, Perkins was a machine. Totally unsmokable. And still totally quiet. The drills relaxed on how often they punished him for not speaking up. But they'd still do it time to time. Anyway, first thing I ever really hear this guy say of his own initiative. We're out on a field exercise digging foxholes in Mop 4. That's when you have to wear the entirety of your charcoal insulated chemical suit, gloves, ridiculously oversized Mickey Mouse rubber boots, and a chemical mask. I mean, you looked like a pure asshole. Had to drink water through the stupid little hose on the front of your mask that made everything taste like used BDSM latex. Some sergeant major was touring the trainees, walking around to see how we are doing. Drill sergeants in tow, of course, to make sure we are looking our best. I lucked out being a squad leader. I only had to dig a hasty around the perimeter, but I felt like a dickbag not doing anything. So I started pitching in with my guys to try to get the work done faster. I should clarify, the hole I had to dig was significantly less deep than the one they had to dig. They needed foxholes which essentially come up to your armpits. My hasty only needed to conceal me when I was prone. It's so first line leadership can get up and run fast to give orders. It was a really old playbook we were using back then. I digress. I was helping Perkins dig when the sergeant major walks up. I snap to parade rest and answer his questions with a song and a smile. Perkins keeps on digging. SGM starts directing his questions right to Perkins, who looks up at him for a second and keeps digging. SGM goes, "Boy, you better answer me, or you're gonna be in a world of hurt." At that, the two drills with him start approaching Perkins, who spikes his tool, the shovel we use to dig, looks up again, and pulls his mask off saying, "Man, I wish he'd just leave me alone." Drill sergeants attack, leap into the foxhole with him, and start screaming in his face. He gets smoked in full gear, me along with him, because I'm his squad leader, and we went to bed dog tired. Damn it, Perkins. But then, the coup de grace, second thing I ever hear this man say, I mean really say, sentence he forms on his own, right before graduation. Those of us whose families didn't fly out to watch, got a 3-hour off post pass to catch a movie or something, while everyone else hung out with their folks. Me, Hurtado, Rogers, and Perkins don't have family coming. So we hop a bus right outside the gate in full Class A uniform to unwind, and grab a bite at a Golden Coral. Now, Hurtado, Ronnie Rogers and I, we are buddies and we are shooting the shit, telling stories, laughing, and Perkins, man, he's laughing right along with us. We got along fine. He just never talked. You couldn't even get anything out of him with open questioning. He'd nod, or shake his head. That's about it. He's done with his plate. He goes up, and gets a huge bowl of jello. While he's up, lady comes around, and snacks his empty plate. But she takes his silverware with it. Perkins sits down, looks around his spot for a hot second, and does that black guy mouth click thing. You know, is that racist? I don't know. I can't do it anyway, but he clicks, and shakes his head side to side. Perkins, what's wrong? I ask him. He glances up, looks around at all three of us and says, "Bitch jack me for my spoon." The three of us almost vomited. We ended up laughing so hard. caused a huge scene. Profound words. Perkins. I wonder whatever happened to him. We were young kids discussing our favorite types of pee right now. Most of us were saying normal stuff like threesomes etc. And the quiet kid who was listening jumps into the conversation and starts going on about this cartoon tentacle stuff that he loves. I didn't physically say it, but I think this is still applicable. I was the quiet kid in this scenario. I had recently moved, so I didn't really know anyone, and I was really shy. I had just gotten an iPhone as a birthday gift, and had downloaded a That's What She Said button app. It was 8th grade. It was still funny back then. I had hidden the phone in my pocket with the app running to try to get the kid next to me to say something that could be taken as a double entendre to use the app button. Here's my duck up. The school was extremely strict with phone use in class. So when I heard the teacher come in through the door, I tried to press the power button to shut the phone off while it was still in my pocket. The teacher noticed that I was fumbling with the phone. So he yelled, "Hey, what's in your pocket?" I nearly jumped from fear and accidentally hit the button with the phone on maximum volume. That's what she said. He realized it was my phone, so he followed it up with "Give it to me." Goddamn it. I also had my house keys in my pocket and the keys weren't letting me get the phone out or find the power button. I accidentally hit the button again. That's what she said. By now everyone in the class is about to pass out from laughter, and I was extremely embarrassed. I finally took the phone out of my pocket and handed it to my teacher. Luckily, once the initial anger passed, he said it was actually kind of funny and let me off with a warning. I was able to make some friends as a result too. Too long didn't read That's What She Said. I was friends with the quiet kid. We were talking about what colors our suits should be for prom. His girlfriend was wearing a blue dress, but he wasn't sure if his suit should have blue on it. Some girl who was popular was behind us in the class, started talking about how he is wrong about all this crap and wrong about the flowers he's getting. Keep in mind this kid never talked to anyone. He turns around and says, "Sorry, but I don't need any advice from some girl who gets tossed around like a ducking ragdoll." It was goddamned amazing. In high school, the quiet kid I always ended up having classes with had moved from India when he was 7. We always assumed he didn't speak English well and felt uncomfortable. Even the teachers would avoid asking him questions as they likely made the same assumption. Further, the very few times he did speak, such as to ask to go to the bathroom, he had a heavy accent. Enter junior year physics class. Same deal. Never had a conversation with a kid. He never spoke, etc. In typical high school physics fashion, we were learning to calculate the position of a cup to catch a ping pong ball that was launched by a catapult of sorts. Anyways, the teacher could not have been happier to show us all the power of mathematics and asked the class excitingly something along the lines of, "How good does it make you feel knowing you were able to calculate where the ball landed?" Out of nowhere, the kid screams at the top of his lungs with no accent whatsoever, "Good enough to duck your mother." No one said a word, not even the teacher. After what seemed like an eternity of laughter, she simply moved on. Turns out the kid spoke English perfectly and just pretended he didn't, in order to have to do way less work than the rest of us. Brilliant. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe,